Guys, the Green Bay Packers have a kicker. Wow, what a game. What an ending. Green Bay Packers just beat the Houston Texans with a 45-yard game-winning field goal by Brandon McManus to win 24-22. Once the Texans got that go-ahead field goal, I knew what this was setting up to be. I knew that Jordan Love and company were going to be able to drive down the field and at least make it a manageable field goal. Now, what I didn't know is what the result would be of that field goal. Brandon McManus being inactive for this entire season. Just what a wild ending. There's a lot to go over in this video powered by BetUS. More on that here in a bit. There's so much that happened in this game. I'm still just really hyped that we just actually hit a game-winning field goal in a year where we've had a lot of, or 2 years, should I say, where we've had a lot of kicker issues. And guys, like I said, I think we have a kicker. Brandon McManus, man, what a kick to finish that game, making it pretty much twice. And as I'm recording this, I just looked. The Lions also won on a game-winning field goal over the Minnesota Vikings. Man, there's so much going on right now with the NFC North. And man, this is still a very, very tough division. Massive shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this video. Go check out BetUS and get a 150% deposit match on your first deposit. And then on top of that, a 125% deposit on your next 2 deposits. If you're looking for a new sports book, BetUS has it all, and you can go bet on the Green Bay Packers either winning the NFC North or making the playoffs, or both, because right now it looks very promising. The Packers just took down a 5-1 team, a team that's a very good football team, and I'm excited to dive into it today. So reminder, go check out BetUS. Massive shout out for them sponsoring this video. Oh man, where do we start? Do we talk about the gunslinger that is Jordan Love, or do we talk about this defense that just held CJ Stroud to 10 completions for 86 yards? Let's talk about that first, because that in itself is just amazing to say. We heard this matchup all last year, and going into this game, CJ Stroud and Jordan Love. Which quarterback is better? And although Jordan Love threw 2 interceptions, which we'll get into, he's really encapsulating being a gunslinger at that quarterback position. But man, you got to give credit to this defense. This was a wonderfully called game by Jeff Hafley. The amount of pressure we saw, simulated pressure, stunts, disguised coverages. CJ Stroud looked lost in the pocket, like he couldn't understand or figure out what the Packers were going to do next. 10 of 22, 86 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The Packers don't even get a turnover. They lost the turnover differential 3-0. That is very rare to win a football game under that. And we sacked him 4 times. Guys, this was the best pressure outside of the Tennessee game, which was kind of like an outlier that I've seen against an actual good offensive line. The Packers were doing a lot of exotic type of pressures that allowed guys to run free at the quarterback and got CJ Stroud off his rhythm, sacked CJ Stroud 4 times, and ultimately held CJ Stroud to a 58.8 rating. Now, the only thing that the defense didn't stop here was the run game. Joe Mixon went off today. 25 of 1 for 115, 2 touchdowns. The Packers' run defense hasn't been wonderful this year, but in the games that the running backs have gashed our defense, we've won. So if that's the case, I'm fine with that. You know, the Texans as a team ran 33 times for 142 yards, 4.3 average, not the worst. There were a couple drives where really it was only Joe Mixon getting things going for the Houston Texans. And other than that, it was just the Packers putting the Texans in great field position. So the fact that you have a turnover differential, you lose a turnover differential, should I say, 3-0, and you still have the chance to go win this game with a game-winning field goal that you do indeed make, that's insane. That's actually crazy, because when you look at the turnover differential and you look at Jordan Love throwing 2 interceptions and the amount of times the muffed punt putting the Texans in a position to score against us, and we held them multiple times, and then we responded multiple times. Their leading receiver was Dalton Schultz, 1 catch, 28 yards. Diggs, 5 for 23. I mean, Tank Dell didn't catch a ball. I loved the energy of this defense. Even going into the game, we saw pregame, Diggs was walking over the Packers sideline. There was chirping going on, pushing. And then the first drive, you just see people on this Packers defense, Jair, Nixon, Evan Williams, McKinney, just playing very aggressive, like having that mentality, like yeah, you're not going to move the ball against us, and we're going to play tough, we're going to play physical, we're going to play aggressive. I loved the mentality by all the defenders today, and I want to give the game ball to Eric Wilson because, wow, what a game by Eric Wilson after Quay Walker checked out of this game with a concussion, which hope he's all good. That did not look good. At least he was able to walk off under his own power. Eric Wilson checks in, and don't get me wrong, Edgerrin Cooper also had a terrific day, so both Eric Wilson and Edgerrin Cooper filling in as de facto starting inside linebackers in base. They did wonderful. Eric Wilson had 6 solo tackles, 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits, and a pass defended. Absolutely insane game by Eric Wilson. Also saw him fly down on a punt, or I believe a punt or a kick, and made a tackle on special teams. Definitely gets game ball in terms of the defense. Xavier McKinney had 5 tackles. Evan Williams had 6 tackles. So again, the Packers starting Evan Williams at safety next to X. Excited to see the snap counts because I saw him out there a lot, and he had a terrific game yet again. And then Edgerrin Cooper, man, also making a ton of plays, especially on that last drive where we had to stop them because if they got a first down, they could have kneed the ball and won the game. And we get 2 straight negative run stuffs by Edgerrin Cooper and Eric Wilson. Edgerrin Cooper also 2 tackles for loss, flying around the field. You know, there's one play where he saw I believe it was a swing pass to Mixon, and he just blew that thing up. Edgerrin Cooper simply just flies around the field. All of these defenders today were flying around the field and attacking the football. We also saw Xavier McKinney get his first sack. What I loved about that is the Packers have been moving X around a ton, whether they bring him up to the line of scrimmage pre-snap and he shows simulated pressure and then he bails back out. They've only pressured or allowed him to pressure 3 times or allowed him to rush 3 times before this game. So I think the Texans knew that and then saw Xavier McKinney coming up and like, okay, he's just going to bail out. And he didn't, and of course goes in and sacks CJ Stroud early in this game. So I loved to see that. Wish the Packers would have got a turnover here, an interception, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you win the football game. But overall, like I said, very impressed with this scheme from this defense, from simulated pressure, exotic pressures, so many stunts. There's a play where Rashawn Gary was standing straight up in the middle of the A-gap and basically ran a stunt and pressured CJ Stroud out of the pocket. We also have Rashawn Gary getting a sack here, pretty much delivered on a silver platter because the tackle just fell over. But I still think this was Rashawn Gary's best game this season, and I said that last week out of last game. So it seems like Rashawn Gary definitely trending in the right direction to returning to what we expect from Rashawn Gary. I also saw a lot of Lucas Van Ness, and this guy continues to be a great run defending style of defensive end. And I saw rumors yesterday that teams are inquiring about Preston Smith, so maybe the Packers move on from Preston and just stick LVN, and maybe that's why he got a lot of snaps today. I liked what I saw from him. Again, overall, just a great performance by this defense. When you hold the Texans, the 5-1 at the time Texans, to 22 points, but not only that, CJ Stroud to 86 yards, and really the only thing they could do against you is run the football, and you win this game with a -3 turnover differential, that's a massive win. Now for the Packers offense, and of course Jordan Love, man, he makes it interesting. At the end of the day, he does remind us a lot of Brett Favre in some of the throws he makes, but also the decisions he makes. The first interception, Jalen Petre kind of caught him in a situation that Jordan Love didn't see it coming, and then obviously it got tipped, and I believe Hewitt had the interception. And then the second one, again, you just don't really understand why you're throwing that football to the post route on Watson, and I believe Kalen Bullock comes down with it. But then you have other throws, the dart up the middle of the seam to Tucker Kraft for the touchdown, the 9 route to Dontavian Wicks on the left side. I mean, you truly have a gunslinger at quarterback right now, and it's fun to watch when it results in a win, but there are definitely still some issues with the decision-making for Jordan Love, but I still think he's trending in the right direction, and it was another great game by him. Got sacked 3 times, had a 95.5 rating, 220 yards. He went 24 of 33. As for the running game, Josh Jacobs, I thought they could have kept running. I thought they could have ran more in this game. They kind of stalled out, and I think it was late third quarter, and then start the fourth quarter where they had 3 straight 3-and-outs. I think they should have ran the ball more there. I mean, Jacobs ran very well today. 12 of 76, 6.3 average. Everyone else didn't really run well. They couldn't get the wide receiver running going. I think they're running too much misdirection against a very smart and fast defense. Misdirection's not really the way to go there. Jaden Reed had 1 carry, no yard. Bo Melton had a carry and lost a yard. Watson had a carry and lost 4 yards. In terms of receiving, man, I think the game ball definitely goes to Romeo Doubs. I mean, this guy was making every single catch, and it is so great to have Romeo in this offense. the most important one at the very end, making a very strong-handed catch to get the Packers a little bit closer and turn that into a 45-yard field goal instead of a 50-yard field goal. And who knows if it's a 50-yarder if we end up making that. On that second field goal, it was a terrible snap by Matt Orzech. And once I saw that snap, I was like, oh no, this is not going to go in, is it? Luckily, Brandon McManus and Whelan got that down, and it snuck in. But if it was 50 yards, would it have continued left and went out? That's my point. And Romeo Doubs got them there. Doubs finished 8 for 94. Dontavian Wicks, 3 for 48 and a touchdown. Tucker Kraft, 3 for 33 and a touchdown. Josh Jacobs got his receiving touchdown, his first ever career receiving touchdown. You knew Matt LaFleur wanted to get him this because the previous play he tried running a halfback screen, it didn't work, and he goes right back to another halfback screen to Josh Jacobs, and that one gets in the end zone. You know Matt LaFleur was definitely trying to get Jacobs a receiving touchdown. But yeah, a very impressive game by this offense. You know, you turn over the ball 2 times on offense, but this is a tough defense, one of the best defenses in the NFL, and D'Amico Ryans is a terrific head coach, defensive style type of head coach, and they have a ton of ball players. You know, Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, they were giving us problems, but overall, I mean, you know, only getting sacked 3 times in this game, I count that as a win for the offensive line. Zach Tom was having some issues out there with Daniil Hunter. Obviously, Will Anderson on Rasheed Walker, I think he got a sack. It's hard to block those guys, but overall, you know, the Packers did what they needed to do to drive down the field when they needed to win this game. To wrap things up, for special teams, man, fire this punt return team into the moon. Jaden Reed's still at punt return. You see Nixon not field the punt for some reason, and it bounces off of Ballantyne. That was definitely on Nixon. That was not Ballantyne's fault. I don't know why you're not just fair catching it there. And then you see Jaden Reed like catching the punt near the end zone and trying to cut back across field and getting shoestring tackled near like the 5-yard line. Man, we're paying Rich Bisaccia a lot of money. He's the highest paid special team coordinator in the NFL, and this punt return unit just does not look good, and the setup for a lot of field goals with the snap, it's been bad as well, so we need better out of the special teams unit overall. And then injury news, we talked about Quay Walker. He left with a concussion. Hopefully all is well there. But again, Eric Wilson, Edgerrin Cooper really stepping up in his absence. And then I heard the announcer talk about Josh Jacobs wasn't in the last drive, and he kind of walked off the field shaking his arm. So that's something to monitor. Hopefully that's nothing bad. You know, Josh Jacobs has been so good for this offense as of late. But yeah, what an impressive win for the Green Bay Packers. Like, I had that feeling that it was going to come down to a game-winning field goal. Actually, that's what I predicted on NFC North Roundtable, that the Packers would win this with a game-winning field goal. I just feel like, you know, it just wrote itself. The Packers move on from Narveson. They sign McManus this week. Doesn't have much practice. Hasn't kicked in a while. Like, I just felt that this game was going to come down to a game-winning field goal, and my heart was beating out of my chest when we were lining up for that field goal. I cannot lie. I'm just glad we're here talking about it, that he made it. Now, next week, we head into Jacksonville to take on the Jags, who had a very impressive victory this morning. But hey, the Packers are 5-2. And at this point, I think they're guaranteed to be still 3rd in the division. I'm not really sure. I haven't looked into it too much. But man, 5-2 and potentially 3rd in the division. That's crazy. NFC North is wild. But that does it for my reaction, instant thoughts, and reaction to this wild game, 24-22, Packers over the Texans. If you guys liked the video, please leave a like down below. If you're new here, go down, click subscribe to stay in the loop with everything Green Bay Packers. I appreciate you guys coming by. Reminder to check out BetUS. Get a 150% deposit match on your first deposit with code YouTube150. But I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Pack Go.